Pardon? Well, that I don't know. Yeah, the GAO $230 billion. Look, you might just as well say that we're going to spend $1 trillion or $100 million on Constellation. Constellation is the manned spaceflight program of this agency when Space Station and Space Shuttle, when Space Station is completed and Space Shuttle is retired. We spend about 60% of our budget year in and year out on human spaceflight. So you can get any figure at all that you would like to have for how much the nation spends on human spaceflight by picking a time frame that you want to discuss. This is an agency, this is the agency in the United States which does human spaceflight. And we spend about 60% of our budget each year doing it. What we should discuss is what we're accomplishing with that money. I think we're accomplishing great things in finishing up the station with the efficiency that that's being done. I have said over and over again, and I'm happy to say it one more time, I think the President got it right. The 2005 Congress got it right in their Authorization Act, and in 2008 the Congress got it right again with their Authorization Act, specifying what it is that we should do with the money that we spend on human spaceflight. But to attach a price tag to what we spend on Constellation implicitly carries with it a time frame, because I hope no president and no Congress ever puts the United States out of the human spaceflight business. And as long as we're in the human spaceflight business, NASA's going to be spending about 60% of its budget doing it. So I'm trying to be responsive to your comments, but I think you're using the wrong measuring scale. As far as $50 million a seat for astronauts to fly to station on Soyuz, I don't actually know that that's the number off the top of my head, but accepting your figure, you know, it's a seller's market right now. As a matter of national policy, the President recommended and the Congress approved by means of its budgetary deliberations each and every year for the last several years. The Congress has decided that we will have a gap in U.S. human spaceflight capability between the end of shuttle retirement, between the end of shuttle and the initiation of Ares and Orion. That's a matter of national policy. Our alternative way, and I'm glad we have one. I'm glad we've got Russian partners to fall back on. But our policy has been for several years now that we will buy rides from Russians to convey our crew and those of our international partners to the station. So this is not a surprise to anyone, nor is it a surprise to anyone that I will say for about the 500th time that I don't like it. But I don't like it less than I don't like not flying at all. So that's what we're going to do.
Okay, Mark, back here, please.
Thank you, Mark Kaufman with the Washington Post. There's a lot going on now in terms of what you're learning about Mars from Phoenix and from other things that are, other data that's coming in. Is it possible? Right, and but my question is it possible that with this additional 26 months that you're going to find a need for other kind of instruments? Is there any possibility of that? I know that there's a process going on now in terms of where you're going to land. What's going to happen with that process? Is that open for further and further review? So I mean, is this an opportunity to kind of upgrade the mission in addition to work out the difficulties?
Yeah, I'll obviously take this one. Let me hit landing sites first. That's probably the easiest. We've had a process in place for a couple of years now that's been working incredibly well on landing sites. We're down to 4 key landing sites. Those are unbelievably compelling landing sites, and they range from significantly south of the equator to north of the equator, and one that's almost on the equator. I don't think that there's a need to go back and reopen that dialogue. This was thoroughly vetted with the community numerous times in public And I don't think that we would see a reason to change any of those landing sites. So I'm not expecting that. Instruments. If I have a program science group of 20 folks, I'll probably have 50 instrument ideas. So every day there's a new idea for an instrument. Can we put them on? No. Is this an opportunity to upgrade the mission? No. This was an incredibly carefully thought out mission and instrument suite by the science community over the years of formulation of this mission, which started in 2003 and basically went through 2006. Most of the 5 flight instruments have already been delivered. The others are very close to delivery. I think we'll have them all by the end of January. There may be a few things to make them more reliable we want to look at, but as far as mission upgrades, there are none planned, and we don't want to do that. We also want to keep the cost of this down. Obviously, we worked very hard, and the team worked very hard not to slip to 2009. So opening the door to massive upgrades is just not in the cards. It's not appropriate either, because you may mess up a carefully orchestrated instrument suite if you did that anyway.
Well, let me take your question a little bit further. The delay will mean something else. It's an opportunity. David Southwood, who is the Director of Science at ESA, the European Space Agency, is my counterpart there. Back in July, we had our annual bilateral meeting between our staffs. And David and I, in a private meeting, started chatting about the fact that they had now orbited Mars. They have a very successful Mars mission right now. They have large ideas of what they'd like to do. But as is in the case of the United States, these missions get more and more expensive. The easy stuff has been done. Flybys have been done. That's the easy stuff. When you get into orbiting and landing on things, that's when it gets tough and it gets expensive. So David and I sort of talked about the possibility that maybe we ought to think about NASA and ESA getting together and come up with one Mars architecture, one Mars program for the Earth, so to speak. So we started talking about that. He took that back to the European Space Agency, and just by curiosity, we had another meeting yesterday, just before our VITS about the final decision here. But I shared this information with him. He has now gotten approval, and I'm allowed to say this, that in the future, NASA and ESA are going to work together to come up with a European-U.S. Mars architecture. That is, missions won't be NASA missions, they won't be ESA missions, they will be joint missions. We need to work together. We'll never, ever do a sample return mission unless we work together. And we both have the same goals scientifically. We want to get our science communities together and start laying out an architecture. We now have that time, for all the wrong reasons, but we now have that time. We don't have to rush to come up with some idea for 2016. They've got some ideas, we've got some ideas. Let's work together. We know how to land things on Mars. They know how to orbit things on Mars. They have launch vehicles, we have launch vehicles. So this makes eminent sense to both of us, and we committed to each other to get our communities to start working toward that goal.
Yeah, let me add just one thing just to emphasize what Doug, almost all the hardware is built. This is a very complicated mission, and Mars is a very unforgiving planet. The best thing is to focus the next 2 years on really understanding the present system, testing it so we are successful. Any change, even from a year or 2 years ago, any upscope or descope is the worst thing that you can do, because effectively all the hardware, the designs, the interface, all of them have been done. Now we're focusing on testing them and understanding them.
Okay, we're going to switch to the Johnson Space Center in Houston for one question, then we'll come right back. So JSC.
Thank you. It's Mark Carreau from the Houston Chronicle. I have a question and a follow-up. I wonder if you could delve into the technical issues just a little bit more,